Nightwing, issue 87, Tom Taylor writing with Bruno Redondo on the art, and this is the fabled issue that has been teased for some time, where the entire thing is one continuous image, that if you did take all the pages out and laid them all side by side, you would form one long, very wide image.
Guys, don't do that, because you'll forget that they're front and back,
Yes.
and it won't work.
Yes. You would need two copies.
They have bought 2 copies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I might have to restaple mine together. I'm just saying.
I know my shop did one of, like, 'cause obviously their shop, they have loads of copies, so they could just lay them all out next to each other so you could see it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, just open them all, and just...
Yeah. They didn't need to destroy
So,
copies.
I read mine physically. I think Pete read his digitally.
Yes.
How'd that work out? Because there's no front and back for digital. So I'm sure it was almost like a motion comic.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously the first and last page are single pages, and the rest are all 2-page layouts or spreads, depending on your preference of choice. So digitally, like, it was very clear when it ended because it was a single page again. Like, it was a good bookend to the thing to make it clear that this is the final page.
I imagine it was pretty easy to read because there's no rotating back and forth. It's just
it was fairly easy to do, and I think, and obviously, as much as it's one continuous image, it's still designed knowing that you're going to be reading it 2 at a time, because that's just how a book works, right? No one's actually unfolding a big huge thing, and like, I mean, even if you could, like, the amount of space you would need to have like 22 pages of comic going left to right.
Yeah, no, it's definitely designed with the normal page layout in mind. As much as the gimmick is there, and the gimmick's cool, don't get me wrong, not knocking it, but there are points where the text goes top to bottom still on those pages, and then it'll reset on the next page because it knows you're still going. You're trained to look at the top of the next page. You're not still down at the bottom. Your eyes don't just move from where they were. They'll reset. Whereas obviously, if it was one continuous scrolling image, you could just leave it at the bottom and carry on from there and work your way back up. It doesn't do that.
Yeah,
much.
Do you know what this felt like to me? This felt like to me like when you're watching a movie and you've got like one really impressive scene that's going to do it in all in one hour. And that's what this comic effectively was. It was, we're going to tell this really simple story of those bad guys breaking into Dick's place and they're going to kidnap Haley, or Nightwing as I prefer. And it's him sort of rushing home to get there and then rushing to save the dog. Batgirl comes in at a certain point to help. But it's all playing out in a one hour. And I got that feeling of like watching something that's done where you're following a character in real time, with the way that he's talking to Oracle over the comms. Well, it starts off on the phone just to Barbara, right? And it's like sort of the civilian communication lines because they're just having a phone call. But then it becomes serious and they switch to, okay, now it's Oracle and Nightwing and we're on the secret bat channels. And then eventually when she comes in, it felt like one of those types of stories where you hear a character for the first half of the story and then they come into it like halfway through. I definitely got that vibe from this as I was reading it, and some of the feelings that I get from real time or close to real time set in one night stories that you get in other mediums. So I really dug that.
Yeah, no, this felt like however long it was set, it was meant for however long it took you to read it, right? Because it moves really quick. Like, this was not...
It's a very
not
fast
that much
read
to
of a
read.
comic, isn't it?
Yeah, so... And that's really cool. Like, I've been reading, people have been calling it like filler or whatever, and that's super annoying because it's not like it's just filler in the way that it's not that it impacts the overall story. This is a piece of art that I can't recall any other comic doing something like this. You know,
at this point of this particular run, what is the quote unquote real story that this is filler to?
Right. I saw that going around.
Well, this is the thing. The point of this issue is that because this is the thing, the target is not Nightwing in this issue. The target is Dick Grayson, because Dick Grayson has publicly said that he's going to funnel all this money into the city and solve all these problems, and that's pissed off the wrong people. So this is fallout from what the main story is. The main story is that he's doing this with all of Alfred's money that he got. So, I'm not sure what you would do otherwise for this to be classed as not filler in the minds of the people who are calling it filler.
Yeah, I just saw that and I was like, you guys don't get it then, I guess. Like, it's like this really cool piece of work that, you know, it's the story working with the art. Like, the art's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, right? Like there's dialogue and whatnot, but there's not a whole lot. Like if I recall, there's no like inner monologue from Dick or whatever.
No,
There's a little bit.
Not that much.
There might be a little.
It's conversation back and forth with Oracle, or it's his inner monologue. Because some of the pages are really inventive. I love the way it shows you, like when he gets to the apartment, he's beating up the bad guy, and it's almost kind of like the old boy scene, right, in the hallway, right, where he's going through the bad guys. That's what it feels like. But he jumps up out the skylight again, and then goes to the outside and comes back. Drops down into the street. So, but the way it sort of shows, and some of the pages, like see when Barbara shows up. And there's that scene where, and some of the transitions as well. See when the van goes around the corner and it transitions to like the highway. I love that transition over those like 2 or 3 pages. But some of them get more complicated when Nightwing and Batgirl go in together into the next building, and we get both of them in that kind of like ghost form, like going through the sequence of their combat. Like I stayed in that page for probably longer than I needed to, just because I wanted to go back and really follow both lines of like combat and sort of like see them meet up again at the end. It was really fun to sort of just take the whole page in, even though there wasn't a lot of information necessarily. It was just a case of, no, I want to like experience all of this from every angle.
You kind of have to follow it twice, essentially. You have to follow Babs once and then follow Dick the other time.
You take time to take it in, because you really have to focus on where Dick is at in the scene, where Babs is at in the scene.
And the storytelling, like see the next page where the guy threatens the dog with a gun, and like he drops the dog out the window, and Dick has to like dive to save the dog. Like that is a really effective couple of pages. That page, I was like, no, I knew he wasn't going to kill the dog. Like I didn't think for a second he would. But
no, this is Tom Taylor.
Yeah, not Tom King.
True. Tom Taylor doesn't give a crap about your feelings. I mean, that's not true. He probably does, but he
knows what he's doing. But like that's I was invested. I care about this character. Obviously, the final page is just this really happy, like him and Barbara swinging with the dog away at the end.
What this issue is making sure that Dick Grayson doesn't become John Wick.
Yeah,
true.
That's what we're putting. Obviously, the art is phenomenal
through the lens of a John Wick action sequence.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Obviously, the art's phenomenal, both in just a traditional sense, but also in the way that it's utilizing this weird format to tell a continuous like oneer, which. Like I thought it made it feel special to me. I like every so often in a run of a comic book to get like a focused thing like this, which is because this will always feel like a milestone in this run. This will always feel like the early milestone about what are we at.
This will always be it's that issue. It's like when you have when someone does like a silent issue. It's like it's that one.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is because we're like 9-10 issues into this run now. This will always sort of be this milestone when you're thinking about like the posts of the run, and like when you think of the whole thing. This will always be that sort of first milestone, probably. Well, I think what this does is that it's a really fun, exciting piece of art, which is really entertaining to read. But it establishes again Dick and Babs working together. Their relationship feels at the forefront. Brings the dog back into it in a way where you're like, okay, this really solidified who the main characters of this run are, and it really solidifies kind of what the main themes of the book are, and that Dick's not just going to be like Bruce. He has to be different. He has to do things his way with the money that Alfred gave him. Like,
no, we know Taylor loves Black Canary, right? Do we think that this is at all influenced by Green Arrow, Black Canary? How when there's been a Green Arrow book, Canary's usually,
just in the way he's incorporating Barbara.
Yeah, and it's like it's not about the relationship; it's just them. This isn't any there's not any spin going on. It's just like dating or not, they're partners here, and it's real cool.
Yeah, she's the second character in this book.
Yeah,
like, she absolutely is.
Like, I'm wondering if he has any of that influence here with them. So because it works just as well.
Yeah. No, it's not it's certainly not a bad way of looking at it, and it could equally just be the other way around. It could be a Batgirl book someday where Dick's just the secondary character, and that would be cool too. But one of the things that he said a couple of times is that him and Redondo have got a long tenure planned on the book. Like, so Because there's been a lot of times, like, since we started this show, there's definitely been a few things where we were hoping for long runs from certain teams that were on a book, and then like after 12 issues, oh no, that's it, it's over, like it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, even something like Taylor's Suicide Squad, which we loved, and I'm not saying it should have gone on forever, but it was 11 issues, and that was the story. I'm sure. I believe that was the plan, but also I could have had years of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're reading Son of Kal-El, it feels like that's a spiritual successor to anything he was doing in Suicide Squad. So who knows if that's the type of story we're going to get, just about John, just the different character there. So, but...
Admittedly, if you told me... I mean, I'm not saying Suicide Squad, I believe, yes, it was just a planned story that was ending when it was ending, but if you told me that was ending so you could do a long run on Nightwing, I would have said, sign me up. Yes,
easy.
I will accept the sacrifice. Yes, give me Nightwing. I love the Suicide Squad, but give me Nightwing.
Yep.
Match made in heaven. I think this issue is just further proof of it. So,
yep.
And luckily the sales are reflecting the love of this.
Yeah,
showing that he will get a long run on it.
And not only that, I think that this, like, he's going to have a Batman run. Maybe not right after he's done with Nightwing, but like within the next 5 years, he's going to have a Batman run.
He just signed an exclusive contract.
He did.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. He's going to be
doing more DC books in the very near future.
Yeah, I think he's at a point where if he pitches them a story and they don't have something else going on, I'm sure they'll just give it to him. So if he wanted to do Flash or Green Arrow, Black Canary, whatever, I think he's at the point where they'll go, sure, here you go.
I think there's a few things that are happening here that are really notable. One, this is proving that he can just take one of the I wouldn't say that was a flagship book, but he can take one of the ongoing characters, their ongoing book, and do a long run that fits into continuity with it. It's not new. He's elevated from the side universes and the Elseworlds and all that sort of stuff. 2, he's proven that when he does that, he's a consistent seller. And 3, that his name itself is starting to get enough of credibility with the audience that he's got a following who will try anything he writes.
It's already we're already invested in that character and Babs and whoever else he's working with, right? And now you're just going to tell a fantastic story about Bloodhaven and what it means to Dick and him trying to do good. And it is peak Taylor when you think about it. Right?
And just to reiterate, this issue is about the fallout of what he's doing publicly, and we're seeing the effect it's having on Bloodhaven. So I completely disagree with any notion that this is... I hadn't heard this until you just brought it up on the show, which is why I'm just reacting to it now, but no way is this filler.
It's one of those things where I saw Taylor talking about something on Twitter, and it was mainly just vaguely about filler and how kind of insulting that is to creatives, because when they're writing stuff, they're never writing it as, quote, filler, right? Like, there's intent and whatever. And I was like, wait, why is he talking about that? And then I started getting these suggested tweets, and I was like, I don't need this type of negativity. So this non-filler issue of Nightwing, I'm going to give it a 5.
Connor?
I'll give it a 9.
Yeah, I'll give it a 9 as well. This was a thrill to like go through, and it felt special when I finished it. I was like, that felt like such a good time. I cared about the dog. I felt the momentum going through the whole issue. It was good stuff. So yes. I mean, Nightwing, I think it's pretty cemented now as my favourite DC book that they're currently doing.
I think it's yeah, I'm not going to speak for Connor, but I know it's mine. So
I would have to do some thinking.